I was born for a storm, and a calm does not suit me. That's a quote from Andrew Jackson. Welcome to the Didio Media podcast. Joined with me today is Drew Peckham. Good morning, Drew.
Good morning. It's great to be here.
Man, I'm so excited. All right, we're going to be talking about things you can do right now to get more views. Now, I want to start off by saying if a video flops, I assume it's my fault. And we're going to talk about why and how we fixed it on multiple occasions. A video flops, and then all of a sudden it takes off because a video on YouTube is never dead. So let's get into this, Drew. Are you ready to go?
I think so. Let's do it.
All right, by the way, Drew, for those of you who don't know, is like the closest person to me on a day-to-day basis. He knows more about me than pretty much anybody, so he can help fill in the holes here as we go along. He's awesome. And we'll probably cut that out, but I'm just kidding. All right, tip number 1 is optimize titles and thumbnails. Again, if a video flops, I assume responsibility. What's something, Drew, that we cannot stand to see on YouTube when it comes to a title? I know you know what I'm talking about.
If you put Sunday 3/25/24, whatever it is, the date, if it is in your thumbnail,
Yeah.
you will not get views.
You're at least making us
whatsoever.
angry.
Yes. You're not going to reach anybody by doing that.
Yeah.
Never.
I might even report your video. Like, that's
Oh,
how bad that is.
yeah.
Now, let's talk about why. Let's say you're a church. You're titling your Sunday morning messages with Sunday morning and the date. You're wasting time. You should not be streaming on YouTube. Maybe you think of it as a storage platform, but honestly, there needs to be a little more time spent on that. So instead of putting the date, before the live stream happens, what you think your pastor's talking about, come up with the title, spend time on it. Here's the reason why. Anytime you spend time on something, you're making it more valuable. Okay, so again, this is, if a video flops, I assume responsibility. That's the creed, right? So when the title is Sunday morning and then the date, there's no reason for people to click on it. There's no visible value except for people that already know your church, right? So we need to define value. We need to say, okay, what's actually valuable? And if we analyze our video like that, it'll make a lot more sense. For instance, if your dishwasher breaks and you're looking for the best video to fix your dishwasher, if the video title is the date they posted it, then you're going to look for a different video. If the thumbnail doesn't even have a dishwasher in it or the kind you're looking for, you're less likely to click on it unless you know the person by chance. We're not going after the people that know who we are. We're trying to reach the lost, right? So when it comes to titles and thumbnails, let's talk about a few quick rules for titles and thumbnails. And again, this is point number 1. And if a video flops, I assume responsibility. So I'm going to throw one at you. Drew, if you have any tips, I want you to throw them in here as well.
You got it.
Number 1, ensure your thumbnails feature a clear, large face with visible eyes for maximum viewer engagement. I always tell people, make sure there are like 1 to 3 subjects in your thumbnail. If there are more than that, that's okay. We can work with that, maybe 4 or 5. We've done that before. But having 1 to 3 subjects is key. What are the subjects? There's the person, there's the text, and then there is an image of whatever, right? We always talk about the viewer journey. Where do they start? And Drew, where do you think, what's the first thing someone sees when they look at a thumbnail?
The eyes.
Exactly. People connect with people, so they look at the eyes first. Then from there, they look at maybe whatever image you have in your thumbnail because it's better to show than tell, okay? This is the viewer journey. So they look at the eyes, they look at the image, and then they look at the text. Okay, then they decide whether or not they want to look at your title, maybe the timestamp. That's kind of the viewer journey there. Now, another tip is your thumbnail shouldn't have the same words as your title. And here's the reason why. If your thumbnail has the same words as your title, then they're less likely to read the title. And if they're less likely to read the title, then they're less likely to spend more time on looking at your video, which means, once again, they're less likely to click on your video. Any thoughts on that so far?
I think that's spot on. I think we keep going in.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to the face size, whenever you're developing a thumbnail, what do you tell yourself, like, face needs to be this large, or?
I would say make the face at least 1/3 the size of the thumbnail, and then the object can fill in a little bit less than 1/3.
Yeah.
And then the text would fill in the rest of that, and then you could have background, whatever, shadows, etc. But definitely make sure the face is most visible because people connect with face.
Yeah, it's interesting you said shadows. I like to think of dynamics, and this is kind of, we're working through this right now. We haven't really talked about this before. So this is cool. Y'all are getting the insider scoop. Dynamics in a thumbnail. There are multiple ways you can have dynamics. There's dynamics in content. There are dynamics in the layout, and there are dynamics in the exposure. Okay, so the content, first off, you've got the actual image that represents the content and the subject. Like, what are your dynamics there? Is it building to something? Does it look like there's tension? Does it look like there's something going on, or you're exposing something? Or are you like really helping someone in some area? That's kind of the dynamics in content. You've got your dynamics in your layout. Okay, so how do the things play with each other? Where does the viewer look? People go to college studying graphic design, okay? And you've done this. You literally did this.
Yep.
So what were some of the things when it comes to the layout that you had to study and learn in an image? So there's like different rules. I didn't go to college for this. I tell people I'm a terrible graphic designer. I'm a good thumbnail designer, but a terrible graphic designer.
Well, just because you go to college doesn't mean you know anything.
But come on.
Well, people say that you have to have an education in a certain area, but realistically, you don't have to go somewhere to get that education. If you just put the time in with the experience, working the job, you'll get further than somebody that goes to college. You're going to know more. You're going to be a lot further along. When you're looking at the layout, a lot of things that they do in college, like some of the textbooks, because they didn't teach you in college. They gave you a textbook, basically, and they said, follow this. And so
You're
there's
better off going to YouTube.
yeah,
Just watch
you're
the
better
video.
off going to YouTube 90% of the time. But they go through different layouts for like typography and all these other things on what the viewer looks at first. So you may start right here, and then you go here, and then here. So it's almost like a circle pattern. You're trying to keep them in a circle, whether they're going from the outside in or from the inside out. Usually from the inside out keeps them on it longer.
Okay.
So
Like the eyes are not on the edge or
Right.
not in a corner somewhere.
right.
They're closer to the middle.
Yep.
Okay.
Because if you keep somebody in the middle, then they'll kind of go from here to maybe here and then here, and then they may go back here. So you want to keep a continuous circle, almost like it's a infinite loop. Like you're just kind of like staying there, and then eventually they get out of that loop and are like, oh, now I get caught on the title. What is the title? And it defines it even more.
Wow.
So that, like Mr. Beast, for example, he gets people caught with all these, like you said, dynamics, contrast,
Yeah.
exposure, all that stuff. He has a certain layout that keeps people going through a loop, and eventually they see a title, and it just like draws them in just enough. You're like, I got to know more about this.
Wow. So that's the dynamics in layout. So you're deciding what they're going to look at first, and you're giving them things to look at second, third, fourth, fifth. I like deep thumbnails or deep
Yes.
images. So Summoning the Demon, Pastor's new book, we did the cover design for that and spent probably 50 hours, 50 hours on that.
Easily.
Yeah. Asked Miss Nikki for a lot of help because I don't know print very well. I put at least 100 assets into, not counting the text, into the cover image. So there are many things that you can look at. So the more you look at it, the more there is to look at. I'm basically reinforcing their decision to look at the cover by giving them more things to look at. So now they're getting excited because, oh, look at this. I didn't notice the Eye of Horus is on there. Like, what? Is that planet Kolog that the Masons, not the Masons, the Mormons, I almost said morons, the Mormons, that the Mormons believe in? I think the dynamics in layout is, I can't get over that.
Well, the crazy thing is, it doesn't have to be crazy. You can just have something simple. Like there was that one YouTube thumbnail where it had like the guy, his like profile picture, and then his channel name and 0 subscribers. That's all the thumbnail was.
Yeah.
But it was so enticing, it made you want to click. So it doesn't have to have a ton of content, but if it's enticing enough to draw the viewer's attention, then it's successful.
There's a story with an open ending now.
Yes.
An open loop. You don't know how it's going to end. He has 0 subscribers. What does that mean? This video has thousands of views, or maybe it has 0 views. Like, what's going on here? So you click on it to find out. And then finally, the third point in this first point, if you're laying it out, is the dynamics in the exposure. This is something I've never heard anyone talk about before, and I'd be curious to get your thoughts on it. Whenever I'm developing a thumbnail, I'm thinking, okay, let's say you're looking at a graph, okay? And the graph is the exposure of an image. You've got darks to whites, or blacks to whites, okay? When it comes to the lighting and the exposure. In my mind, a good thumbnail has something at every level dynamically. So there's something that's completely black, there's no detail in it, and there's something that's completely white, there's no detail in it. And sometimes that's a flash. Maybe it's the sun. Maybe it's just this point where it's so bright, there's no detail. And there's this point where it's so dark, there's no detail. And again, you're creating kind of this story. So there's I don't know if, you're comparing the sun and the darkness, right? So you're kind of laying out this framework of there's depth to this. Like we're going all the way from, and not that a viewer's going to say, wow, I'm so glad their thumbnail is exposed to where you have a point at every line in the graph.
Right.
But to me, that tells a better story. Anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that's great.
I don't think we've ever talked about that before.
I don't think we have, no.
It's interesting stuff. Okay, number two, turn off the Made for Kids button. Please, if your church is doing this, turn it off right now. Thank you, Michael. He's clapping for us in the background. There is a setting on YouTube, for those of you that, I'm going to look at the camera for this, for those of you that don't know, setting on YouTube called Made for Kids. I honestly think this was a strategy of the enemy, was it 2 years ago, to fool churches into getting less views. So if this is turned on, you need to turn it off, and here's why. And this is just a public service announcement. Many of you, this does not apply, but some of you it does, and I'm hoping that you'll go and turn this off right now. It turns off comments, so people cannot engage. You can't pray with people. They can't tell you where they're watching from. It limits views, turns off the mini player, so they can't even watch you and work on something at the same time, or they can't turn off their phone while listening to you. It demonetizes the video, basically. And there's more. It does a whole lot more to your channel, so please turn it off. Again, I think it was an attack against many ministries, so don't fall for it.
You need to make that a short. That was great.
That should be a short. We should turn that into a short.
Turn that into the hook.
Exactly, yeah. So for those of you that don't know, you need a good hook. And we'll talk about, actually, we just released a video about vertical videos. If you want to watch that, we'll link it up in the show notes below. Next up, I want to talk about staying laser focused. Now, Drew, you've talked about consistency. Is consistency important? We talked with Paul Duvall recently about the dangers of consistency, which is vital, but you need to be consistent. And so if you didn't watch that video, you wouldn't understand. So you have to go watch that video again. We'll link it in the show notes. What do you think about consistency?
Again, I think consistency can be very dangerous. Because if you consistently do the same thing over and over, who was it? Albert Einstein said doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different insanity. Yeah, expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. So I think consistency, again, could be very, very dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. Because you can be consistently posting videos, but if you're not consistently changing things, like Sean Cannell says, 1% better every day, you're not going to grow. Yeah,
so good. Keep your content not only consistent. Here's where you need to be consistent. You need to be consistently getting better with every upload, right? That's the 1% rule. But you also need to keep your content tightly aligned with, if you're a church, with your church's core message and values. If you're a business, with your business's core message and values. Don't do a video about salvation one day and then your recent skiing trip the next. I don't know where people think this is like a good idea. Oh, this would be a great video. People would love this. Well, your mom would like it. But I don't think the unsaved witch. When I think about the people we're trying to reach from the Encounter today, I think about maybe someone who's literally drunk, they just got divorced, they don't know Jesus, or I think about the witch, which, by the way, we've had witches on our live streams before that experience the power of God.
Come on.
Wild stuff. That's the person I'm thinking of. So I'm not thinking about, oh, they're going to love this vlog about our skiing trip. No, they are not going to click on that. They don't care about that. They're radical people. We need to reach them with what they're actually interested in. So stay consistent in your targeting, in your messaging. Sean Cannell, I worked with him for almost a year. He gave us a 1 to 10 scale. All right, when we're trying to find content for vertical videos, it was a 1 to 10 scale. So where does the content lie on this scale? We want it to be a 7, 8, 9, or 10. If it's a 7+, then we'll release it and we'll analyze the results. So if the results are bad, then maybe we look at it again and say, you know what, that was probably actually a 4. Here's what you don't want. A video to go viral that was a 2.
Oh.
So your skiing vlog goes viral, and now you've got 200,000 subscribers that are there to see skiing vlogs, and you're not providing that. So guess what? You're not going to reach any people, right?
That's good.
So you're doing live streams now about salvation, and they're like unsubscribing, or they're bad comments. They're not even watching your video, and what you have is dead weight. Those 200,000 subscribers have become an anchor on your channel. That's why I encourage people not to buy channels that already have 1,000 subscribers, or buy channels that because they're fake subscribers. Number one, it's not impressive. It's not going to help you. So don't buy subscribers, please. Does that make sense? What am I missing?
I think that was spot on.
Well, next, I guess we'll move on. Learn from the pros, not from the mega ministries. This is going to be fun.
Uh-oh.
Even Alana said, yeah. Study successful church channels and adapt their proven strategies to fit your style. But this doesn't necessarily mean mega ministries. You need to look for other churches, maybe your size. But by your size, and I'm specifically talking to churches here, but this applies to business owners, entrepreneurs, whatever. You need to find people that are similar to you, in a similar niche to you, with a similar audience to you. Okay, so for instance, our church, let's say, I don't know how many people, 100, 200 on average. The average church in America has less than 100 people attend their services. Okay, and if that's you, that's awesome. Guess what? That's what we had a couple years ago. Well, I should say several years ago because time's flying by. But you have less than 100 people. That's normal. That's the average size of a church in America. That does not mean you cannot reach the multitudes. Okay, so you have 100 people in your church. In a minute, we're going to talk about point number 5, how to turn that into virality. We're going to talk about that here later. So if you don't have to have a mega ministry to have a mega impact, right? That's what we always say. That's what Pastor always says. So look for other churches that are your size and see what are they doing that works. Okay, what content are they producing that actually reaches lots of people? And let's talk about mega ministries. Sometimes mega ministries get views just because they have a built-in following that you may not have. So maybe let's give some examples. Like, what are some ministries that come to mind instantly when we think about this?
Well, I don't want to rat anybody out.
Well, it's not ratting them out. They're mega ministries. So what they're doing is already awesome. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, so Alana's ruthless. She says Elevation. So Elevation, local in the area, they're a big ministry, right? We said when we were interviewing Paul Duvall, Pastor Stephen Furtick could sneeze and he'll get 100,000 views because he's Pastor Stephen Furtick, right? Music takes off. They've already got a big built-in audience. It's a built-in audience, okay? So anything they do is going to get views, maybe even get news coverage, all right?
Mega ministries, for example, they could be very popular on TV ministry, and then they go to YouTube, and it's kind of like a standstill because they're not trying to grow that exactly. But a small channel, for example, they could look at somebody like that, copy that layout, and that's why they're not growing.
Yes.
Because they're copying something that doesn't work. So
you
can have a small channel, and you can basically look at somebody's video on their channel like, wow, they did that. It grew so fast. But that could be a 1 in a million thing that just kind of like a fluke that just kind of happened. Yeah, exactly.
So we know lots of television ministries, and it's great that they're television ministries, but they don't understand YouTube. Mm-hmm. Again, I'm a bad graphic designer, but I'm a good thumbnail designer. Okay, so the problem is you've got great graphic designers doing terrible YouTube thumbnails, and it kind of irks me.
You converted
me. We worked on it. Any graphic designer can do that, by the way, because they're so fast at adapting and learning. They understand the principles. And so the text is pretty. The layout is beautiful. The coloring is gorgeous. But the thumbnail is awful. Okay?
Come on.
So just because you're successful in television doesn't mean those principles apply. I wouldn't say they're principles. They're rules of thumb for television. But principles work across the board, right? On television, YouTube. And that is content, engagement, a good call to action. Most of the time, television ministries are some of the best communicators I've ever seen. They're so good at communicating, very good at selling a product, which, by the way, you need to be able to do. And they're just so good at it, and they're good at doing it in 28:30. They got that 28:30 time limit, which has made them so good at communication that it blows most YouTube channels out of the water. Now, if they can take that and apply it to their YouTube channels, it'd be a whole different ballgame. So YouTube channel is evergreen. Television it's live right now. You have to watch it or record it, and you're going to fast forward through the commercials, right? YouTube, you're going to fast forward through anything that doesn't apply to what question you want answered. So that's what they're going to do. They're going to fast forward to that. So when we're talking about learning from the pros, point number 4 here, mega ministries are very different. They're awesome communicators, so learn from their communication skills, but don't learn from their television rules of thumb because it's very different for YouTube. Any other thoughts on that before I give a warning before we get to point 5?
I don't know. I kind of want to get into this warning.
Okay.
I've been very anticipated.
The branding bug.
Uh-oh.
The branding bug. Get away from the branding bug. Just because you've got a logo doesn't mean you need to use it. Branding should be seen in your coloring and your layout. Branding should be seen and not heard. Okay. It should be felt but not seen. That's what it should be. Okay. Branding should be felt but not seen. And here's what I mean. Your thumbnail, when you put a logo in your thumbnail, you're telling people that you don't care about their end result as much as you do them figuring out who you are. And people don't like that. They don't like that. So what you're doing is you're muddying up your thumbnail. You're saying, hey, look at my logo. Or you're saying, hey, here's the name of our ministry. And this doesn't just apply to thumbnails. This applies to videos. What were you going to say?
I think if you want to add a logo, so in YouTube, in the bottom right corner, your channel will have your profile picture or your logo. If you want to display your logo,
Put it there.
That is the perfect place to put it.
Yeah.
If you want to put it one place, put it there of all places.
Please. Don't put it on your thumbnail.
Yep.
And it takes too much time, takes too much effort. You're wasting space on the thumbnail. And here is the number one thumbnail title editing rule. This applies across the board. Are you ready for this? I tell myself this every day to make sure I'm staying on track and making sure we're actually going to be successful with our videos. Are you ready for this?
I don't know if I've heard this before.
You haven't. This is the number one. Well, maybe you have. I think we talked about this briefly before, but not publicly. Here's the number one rule. Never told anyone before. Nobody. Well, hold on. Let me back up. I call this the NC rule. Okay. The NC rule. I'm going to get a flag. I'm going to put it on a flag.
Say it.
I'm going to get a picture. I'm going to put it on the picture. I'm going to put it on my mirror. This is the rule. This is the NC rule.
You know what this makes me think of? This makes me think of a Facebook video that I'm watching and they're just dragging it on
Yeah.
over and over and over.
Yes, because I'm trying to get you on the edge of your seat. Okay. The NC rule. Nobody cares. Yes. Drew knew where I was going with that. Nobody cares. Okay. So when I'm looking at a thumbnail, here's what I'm telling myself. Nobody cares. So what do they care about? They don't care about my logo. Again, I'm looking for that witch. Okay. They don't care where our churches are located until they do, I guess. And hopefully they end up caring in the right way where our church is located. They don't care about the hashtag whatever that we're doing. They don't care about our giveaway. They don't care about a special announcement. They don't care about our special guest. They don't care about any of that. They need their question answered. They need to be triggered in some way so we can get them hooked and bring them into the video.
If you want people to care about you, give them value.
Yes, because they don't care about you. They care about the value. And then when they care about the value, maybe they'll start caring about you. The reciprocal nature of that, you give them something. And without even asking anything in return, they're more likely to follow you. You don't have to ask them to subscribe. They're more likely to follow you because you've given them something of value and they're going to follow you for that. So don't fall for the branding bug. Remember the NC rule. We're in the final point here, but any other thoughts?
Let's knock it out of the park.
Let's knock it. Okay. Engagement is key. Point number 5. And here's why. Your YouTube channel looks dead. Okay. We need to get some engagement on it. So how do we do this? This is really easy for churches to do. Way too easy. Get your leadership team to like, comment, and watch the videos.
Firebomb.
We called it a firebomb. I think Media, they call it a love bomb, but
No.
we're not doing the love. We're not doing the love thing. We're doing the firebomb. So go on there, have them respond. Respond to people. Wow. It's like someone comes into your church for the first time and
You say nothing to them whatsoever.
Yeah,
You just let them walk by.
you don't smile at them. You don't introduce them
You don't
yourself.
tell
to
them where to go to sit or where the bathroom is.
You don't even try to get their
Welcome
email
card.
address, which
Yeah.
churches are really, really hot on trying to get people's email addresses. But you need to get real engagement online. And guess what? People want to engage. You just have to meet them halfway across the sky. Get your leadership team to like, comment, and watch the videos. Now we have our dream team. This is our leadership team. Hit play, and they don't even have to listen to it. They hit play. They let the video play in the background. They can turn the volume down. What it's doing is it's generating watch time. Okay, so there's engagement. They're commenting. They're praying with people. Guess what? We need to be praying with people. We need to be encouraging them. These are real people that need real connection. In that, you need to never give up.
We did that for years before this channel even had 1,000 subscribers. We had people firebombing and everything. And just because you watch a video once, if you leave it playing in the background, that's a very valuable thing for your church if you're trying to get the word of God out there to reach people. Just keep it playing on a loop. And you can even set up a playlist from that channel, and you can go through, have it on a loop on your desktop in the background while you're working, and you're helping promote the gospel of God.
Yes, just by letting it play. If we get to heaven and we didn't do that, Dr. Lester Summerall is in our spiritual heritage. He's like a great-grandfather for us. His spiritual son was Dr. Rod Parsley, and who is our pastor's pastor. So Dr. Lester Summerall, he spent millions of dollars to shoot satellites up into space. Like, he built satellites, he built television stations, millions upon millions of dollars. He did that and reached millions of people. The same technology
In our hands.
fits in your pocket, and we're not using it to the best of our ability. I don't know if there's two things in heaven. I don't know if there's coffee, and I don't know if there's violence. But I want to sit down with Dr. Lester Summerall one day and have
Some
a cup of
people
coffee.
might say if there is no coffee, there will be violence.
Yeah. But I want to sit down at coffee with Dr. Lester Summerall. And if I didn't do that, I could see him spitting out his coffee and slapping me in the face or punching me in the gut like
Come
an
on.
Irishman would, you know. As he would say, he would describe himself as an Irishman. So he would slap you upside the face. If you didn't he spent millions of dollars getting this into space and you have it in your pocket and you spend a couple
And there's
$100.
multiple platforms. It's not just TV now.
Yeah, and
You
it's
have
free.
YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Well, TikTok's kind of going through some stuff now, but
Yeah.
you got Snapchat and all these other platforms that you can use.
That billions of people are on. You don't
Yep.
have to go to China. You don't have to go to Africa anymore. They're online.
And that's the great thing about shorts. You can if it's evergreen content, you can just post it on every platform.
Every platform.
And just because it doesn't work on one platform doesn't mean it's not going to reach people.
Exactly. It'll work across the board. Maintain unwavering persistence and determination in pursuit of your goals, no matter the challenges you face. Make sure you don't compromise the message. People get stuck in. Last night we did a live stream, and the live stream was about deep state pastors exposed. Okay, we're exposing deep state pastors, traitors in our midst. Here's how they've kind of backslidden. They were tricked into thinking they had to give people what they wanted to hear. The Bible prophesies that there will be teachers and groups. Well, there will be groups of people. Let's look at the Bible verse. Let me see. Let me get this right. 2 Timothy 4, verse 3 says, "For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but having itching ears, they shall heap to themselves teachers in accordance with their own lusts." Now, the problem here isn't the teachers, it's the hearers. They're heaping unto themselves teachers that will tell them what they want to hear. The number one content strategy is telling people what they need to hear. When it came to television 20, 30 years ago, if you wanted to be on television, you couldn't do that. But now we're in a place where the only way to grow is to tell people the truth. We can tell people what they want to hear, but that's not real growth. That's fake growth. And we're going to fall if we do that. So maintain consistency. Maintain your value for the Word of God. And remember, this is all for the kingdom. We aren't simply content creators. We're seed sowers. Every video is a seed. And guess what? He gives seed to the sower and bread to the eater. Drew, any final thoughts?
Amen.
Let's go. Oh, we got to do the fist bump. There we go.